All right, how you doing, everybody? Welcome to Booze and Hacking. I am your host, Dark Hoodie, and we are back with another TryHackMe room. This one is called Tools Are Us, and the purpose of this room is not so much a CTF style type of thing, but more like practicing using tools like Dirbuster, Hydra, Nmap, Nikto, and Metasploit. So we're going to go ahead and scroll down to look at, we've got our IP address and we have a series of questions that we're going to answer together. And before we get into that, let's talk about what we are drinking. So here we see a bottle of Redemption Bourbon. And I have to tell you that for the price, it is an inexpensive bourbon, and man, it is smooth and so delicious. I would stack this up against any of the higher end bourbons out there. This is just wonderful. If I was on a desert island and this was all I had, I'd be just fine. This is great stuff. So if you are in the mood for a drink, pour yourself something and let's get into the room together. So as I mentioned, we've got our IP address. Clearly this room is named after Toys R Us, which I think reopened sometime recently. But in any case, we have some questions to answer. So, okay, let's get started. So the first question says, what directory can you find that begins with a G? So, Dirbuster. Let's go ahead and launch Dirbuster. And here it is. You can also use this in a terminal, but I don't get to use the OWASP stuff all that often. So let's go ahead and pump this in. So I'm going to put in http://10.10.83.159. And let's start looking for some web content, some stuff to use. We're in my own directory right now, but we don't need to go that far. Let's look for some word lists, shall we? So what's this one say? This is up one level. Let's go to USR. And I think it's share. Let's see if seclists is in here. Yep, there it is, seclists. And let's do discovery. And we'll do web content. And let's look for, how about something simple? Let's do common.txt. That's a good one. And let's kick it off. Let me make this a little bigger. And I probably should have started this sooner, so I am going to pause the video for the moment while we wait for our results. Okay, so we're back, and In case you're wondering, you see the difference in the IP address. The first one wasn't working out so well for some reason, so I decided to kill that room for a moment and bring back a different IP. So here we are. So the scan has been running, and we're finally up to the G's. The first G it says here is guidelines. So I'm going to minimize this for a moment and go back here and type in guidelines and see if that kicks in. And yep, we've got our first question. So it says here, whose name can you find from this directory? So I'm going to launch a browser. And pump in this IP address along with the subdirectory of guidelines. And we have the name of Bob. Hey Bob, did you update that Tomcat server? So now I'm going to go back to my room. Whose name did I find? It was Bob. And now we have here, what directory has basic authentication? So let's see. We may have to go back to Dirbuster now. Let's see how far down we have. Alright, we still have to wait a little bit probably, because from what I can tell here, these directories do not have basic authentication, meaning from where do we log in? So we may have to wait a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording again while we continue to wait for that directory to pop up. Okay, so some further enumeration, and I am looking at this folder called the subdirectory called protected, and I see reference to the password directory, access. I'm thinking this could be the one that the question is looking for. So I am going to go back here. Which directory has basic authentication? So I am going to pump my IP address back here, and 173/protected. And let's see, and there it is. It's asking for a username and password. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to say protected. Alright, now what is Bob's password to the protected part of the website? So we'll know already that the username is Bob. So that is a good thing. We've got a username in these. So now I'm going to go back to my terminal, and we are going to use Hydra to attack this site. So I took the liberty of launching wherever it is, my cheat sheet. And I'm going to copy my cheat sheet here because I like to use this. And I'll go up to here. I think that's all I need. And I'm going to hit copy. I'm going to paste this to my terminal and then make a few changes. So for starters, we know that the username is Bob. I can come back here. I'm going to go pass over admin and make that Bob. And I've got my rocku.txt. I like to use that to cover all my bases. I know it's big and long and takes a long time, but I can always pause again if necessary. So let's pump my IP address back in here. 10.10.237.173. And I'm going to be looking for the get of the site, but not Inferno. That was another room I was trying to get. Instead, I'm going to look for what's in protected. And I'm going to go ahead and run this. Maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe the password's easy. Oh, that was fast. Look at that. So we know the password is Bubbles. So I'm going to come here and type in Bubbles. All right. What other port that serves a web service is open on the machine. All right, so first I'm going to take my information here. I forgot to go ahead and log into the site. So we have here username is Bob, password is Bubbles. We don't. All right. So it says here this protected page has now moved to a different port. So now I have to find out what other port we can use. So in that spirit, I'm going to run Nmap. So I'm going to come back up here, and actually I should probably use Rust scan so that it'll go faster. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to copy Rust scan because that does run fast. So I'm going to copy this here and pump that into here. All right, and if you haven't had the opportunity to use Rust scan, by all means, avail yourselves. It's nice and fast, and you more or less get the same information. Excuse me. I am running all ports. I want to find out what this port is, and let's go. One of the things I like about Rust scan is that upon running it, you immediately get a quick summary of the open ports. So let's see what we've got here. So far we got 4, and man, I love how fast this is. So one of the other interesting things about this about Rust scan is that it actually even runs a stealth scan at the same time. But let's go back up and have a look. So here we are. We have port 22, which is running OpenSSH over Ubuntu. That's the standard. We have port 80, which is running an Apache web server over Ubuntu as well. And we have port 1234, which is also running Apache Tomcat. And then we have port 8009, which is running Apache JServe. And that is running over Linux as well. And okay, so let's get back to our question. What other port that serves a web service is open on the machine? I believe that is the 1234. Let's hit that. All right. What is the name and version of the software running on the port from question 5? So let's go back to our terminal here. So it's Apache Tomcat Coyote JSP Engine 1.1. Let's see. That's got to be it. So I'm going to say Apache, let's try this. Or rather, actually here it is, Apache Tomcat 7.0.88. So I'm going to copy this. This looks like it'll fit in our question better. And submit that. Okay. All right. Use Nikto with the creds you found and scan the manager/HTML directory on the port found above. How many documentation files did Nikto identify? Okay. So let's keep this. I'm going to open up another tab, get us a fresh terminal here. And now, Nikto. Do I have something in my cheat sheet for Nikto? I do not. I am going to have to make one, though. So Nikto, we're going to do this, and we're doing a site. So host, http://10.10.237.173. And we're going to run it against that port. So 1234 slash, and it asked for /manager/html. All right, so /manager/html. And the username in this case is Bob. And we'll put in the password, which is bubbles. All right, Nikto's getting to work. We see here we successfully authenticated to the Tomcat Manager application with the credentials that I've supplied. And now we're waiting for the number of directories. What was the question again? It wants to know how many documentation files did Nikto identify. So we're looking for documentation files. Let's give this a minute. See what we get. All CGI directories found. Use -c none to test none. I neglected to mention earlier, Nikto is for scanning for vulnerabilities. So that's what this application does. And we're looking for anything that references documentation files. All right, we're waiting. All right. No need to keep you guys hanging out for this long. I hate to waste time on video. I am going to pause again, and I'll be back with you when we get our results. See you in a minute. Okay, so we are at the part of our scan where it finally references documentation. It begins with this line right here. It says this might be interesting. So I see here Tomcat documentation found. Again here, it's 2, it's 3, 4, and 5. So the answer to our question is, how many documentation files did Nikto identify? I'm going to say it's 5. All right. And now the next question is, what is the server version? So let's see if we can pull that up. I'm going to go back to our Rust scan results, see if we can get some information about Apache. And on port 80, I have here 2.4.18. So I am going to make a copy of that right here and add that here. See if that kicks in. Yep. Now it says, what version of Apache Coyote is this service using? So let's go back to our results. It says here 1.1, Apache Coyote 1.1. And so we will do 1.1. And now it's telling us, oh, I'm under an hour here. I had better increase my time. Let's just do that. Get some extra time in here. I'll refresh this page. And while I'm looking, make sure that my VPN is still... I think my VPN is still working, so that should be a good thing. We may have to refix that if possible. All right, next question. Use Metasploit to gain the service, to exploit the service and get a shell on the system. All right, so it's telling us to use Metasploit. So back to my terminal. And let's run over here, MSF console. And we'll give that a minute to kick in. Should be playing some Jeopardy music right about here. All right. And here it is. So, what are we going to search for? Let's go back to our terminal for a second. Now, obviously with Nikto, okay, my Nikto scan is done. Tomcat Manager seems to be where the vulnerabilities lie. So we're going to go ahead and do a search for that vulnerability, default Tomcat Manager. All right. So I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to search Tomcat, and I'll do Manager. See what we get. And we're waiting and waiting and waiting. I hope this means that there are exploits here that are still in effect. I hope they left this room vulnerable, didn't patch anything up by mistake or on purpose. Okay, here we go. So we have a couple here. We have one here that says Tomcat Manager Deploy. Another one that says Upload. And another that says Login. All right. Let's run with upload. So I'm going to say use, and that is number 5, I believe. Use 5. Yep. So it's defaulting to an interpreter reverse shell. Let's take a look at the options. Alright, let's see here. HTTP password, username, okay. Our hosts we need, our port we need. That is not our real IP address. And while we're at it, let's make sure that I am connected. I'm going to add another tab here. And there's my usual IP address that I get from TryHackMe, so that's good. Let's go back here. So let's go ahead and set this up. We're going to set lhost at my ton0. With the I wrote run 0. Rats. Set lhost ton0. There we go. And now let's set our hosts, and our IP address is 10.10.237.173. And let's set our port, which should be that 1234. That's where that server is sitting. And now we're going to set the HTTP. Let me see how they spell it. Set. I'm just going to copy that here. As Bob. And we're going to set the password. We already know the password is bubbles. I'm going to copy this as well. Oh wait, what did I just do? I messed it up. Set HTTP username as Bob, and then I'm going to set HTTP password as Bubbles. Okay. That should be good. Let's go with it. So I'm going to hit exploit. Boy, what just happened here? What do we have? Okay, exploit executing aborted due to failure. Failed to execute the payload. Well, let's try again. Maybe I'll use the run command. All right. That did not give us anything. So we need to get, let's see if I'm missing anything. I didn't do L port. You know what? Let's set L port at 4444 and run this again. Okay. Failed to execute the payload. Exploit completed, but I didn't get interpreter. Let's see. I am going to double check VPN once more, even though it does say so that I have. I'm going to kill this session. Go back to this. going to keep trying this until it kicks in. Alrighty. So I'm going to try a different one now. I'm going to try that first one. I'm going to exit out of Metasploit and go back in for a second. I'm going to try one more time. Search Tomcat MGR. Alright, that came back faster. Let's go with number 5 again. I'm going to try one more time, and if not, then we'll go with 0. Okay, so let's start from the top. Set lhost ton 0. It's my IP. Set L port at 4444. Let's set remote hosts at 10.10.237.173. Let's set our port at 1234. Let's set HTTP username at Bob and set HTTP password at Bubbles. Let's run that now. All right. I'm going to pause for a second. I'm going to try a new IP address just to be safe. Stand by. I will be right back. Okay, we're back, and let me just show you all what I finally got to be able to do. We discussed before that the next step was to get into Metasploit and see if we can run our exploit from here. So as you can see, I've got Metasploit open, and so the exploit we were looking for was called Tomcat MGR upload. And after doing a search for that, found that it was listed as number 5 among this list. And here is the description of it. It's Apache Tomcat Manager Authenticated Upload Code. So we selected it, as you see here, and it defaults to Meterpreter. And here are the options that we've chosen. And so here's what the settings were going to be. So we were going to set the HTTP password to Bubbles, which was earlier revealed. Here's the username. Here is my local IP address, and the site's IP address. Different, by the way. I had to restart the room. And here is the remote port. And so we ran the exploit, and here we have our Meterpreter session 1 opened. So let's get back to the questions now. And so it says here, use Metasploit, which is what I've done, and we've gotten the Meterpreter shell. So it says, what user did you get a shell as? So I'm going to go here and do, I think it's get UID, if I'm not mistaken. And it says here, I am root. Root is a beautiful thing. So I'm going to go ahead and pump that in. Alright, and it says, what flag is found in the root directory? So I'm going to do dir and have a look to see what is listed here. And looking for the root directory. And there it is right there. So I am going to cat root, and I'm going to assume it's flag.txt. It tends to be that way. And there's our flag. And that is the very last question to be answered. We are done with this room. I'm just going to copy that here and paste that in here. And we're done. So this was an interesting room to work through because it gave us a chance to run different applications like Hydra and Nikto, Dirbuster, Metasploit especially. So if you enjoyed our time in this room, I would encourage you to please like and subscribe, and hope to see you all in the next room. And until then, hack the planet.